All right, we are recording and just finished chapter 8, right? Yes. Um, Hopefully this one won't be as long. I know I said last time, but I don't have nearly as much to rant about. A little bit, but not as significant. Um, so we've got Luke on Dagobah. He does meet Yoda. Um, the Falcon is landed on the asteroid and they're doing repairs inside. They haven't yet gone outside. Something that's a little different, as far as the repairing goes, something that is a little different from the movie. There is something else I'm pretty sure is different from the movie. At least I don't remember it. At least not that way. And then we get a little bit. But basically, we just have for the Imperials, Vader talking with the commanders of all the different ships there. One is destroyed, and then he is told that the Emperor wants to talk to you and say, "All right, move this ship out so we can get a clear transmission." So that's basically what we got there, and it ends with the whole Yoda going, "You will be," about Luke saying that he's not going to be afraid. But yeah, so the one thing with on the Falcon that I don't okay. So at the start of the chapter, when we're there is more of the whole Leia falling for Han, which is definitely something that I've been noticing throughout the story. That is, it's actually nice to see that there because it's not really touched on in the movie Leia's side of it. Definitely Han's, but it's Han's personality is an easier one to show off in a film. I think hers, she needs to. She tends to be a very controlled, not cold, but controlled character, and it's portrayed that way in the movie. So you don't see that, but in the book, you have the advantage of spending more time with certain things, but also hearing her thoughts, being in her head. So we have been seeing more of that. And one thing I don't remember in the movie, and it might just be I'm not remembering it. It's been a while. It has been a while. So in the movie you've got Leia is there. She just finished welding something. Is now trying to push it back, and she can't. And Han comes up and does it for her. And is also rubbing the hands there. I don't recall that in that scene in the movie they kiss. And it's actually twice. He kisses her and then she kisses him in the story. So very clear that yes, they are falling in love, which mainly it is her falling in love with him that matters. It's already kind of obvious that Han does love her, but there is still some of the whole, like, working through the emotions for him as far as, like, actually loving her and not just being attracted and wanting a relationship with her, but actually loving her. So there's some of that there, but he's already in, like, much closer to wanting this to happen than she is. So yeah, it's like that I'm actually fine with that. It is also kind of funny because in this chapter and in the previous one, even as I recall, maybe it was only in this one. Chewie is like watching no, it isn't this one. With Chewie and 3PO are both kind of watching when they would like just verbally sparring with each other with some of this. But like for the actual scene, Chewie is like in a compartment above trying to deal with all the wires there. And when he like hears that they're talking to each other, he actually like, pulls himself over so he's staring down watching them and watches the whole thing. And it's only after Leia leaves that Han realizes he's up there. It's just like I mean, it's just kind of silly, this idea that Chewbacca is like, it sounds like these two are, talking and let's see what's going on here. It's just kind of silly. I do understand why you wouldn't do that in the movie for a couple reasons. One is it'd be weird. Chewbacca's big. Seeing him hit in one of these compartments crawling down does make much sense. It doesn't seem like the Falcon is that large a ship that you could do that. And I think you don't necessarily want to develop Chewbacca to have this almost silliness to him. You could, but he is a supporting character only. So spending that time on him in the movie would potentially be considered wasted time. But in the book, you do have the luxury of doing that, so it makes sense to see that in the book, not in the movie. Okay, so getting to Dagobah now. Yeah, some things here that are definitely different, and one thing in particular that does annoy me is tempting a rant. We'll see. So it actually acknowledges that Luke has done nothing to prevent the X-Wing from sinking. Nothing. But that it's fortunate that it hasn't sunk so far that he could still go over and get the compartments for the survival gear and those supplies and bring them back to shore. But so it's like he's doing nothing to protect it, to keep it from sinking further. And it's like, dude, you need to do that. What do you? I mean, if anything, that makes more sense to work on it than the camp. Well, I mean, yes, as far as the camp goes, it makes more sense. Getting the supplies out and on dry land, that's fine. That makes sense. Because that ensures your survival, but then you need to ensure your ability to leave. But setting up the camp, that can wait a little bit. Like, especially because it talks about, the whole plugging R2 in to charge him with that little lamp. Well, in the book, it's referred to as a heater and just has a light glow. But it's like, why? R2 should be fully charged. Excuse me. R2 was just plugged into the X-Wing. Maybe it's just me, but I would think that there would be like a car or a car battery where it's like, well, when the main engines are going, they're producing more power than you need for movement, so you're actually feeding that into other things, like in the car battery, or in this case, R2. So he shouldn't need to be charged. It is one of the things where it's like, I mean, I think it may help explain why he isn't necessarily moving around that much, but it's also the train isn't meant for him, so that could be another. It is just one of those things where it's like, I'm not sure why they're putting in certain details here. It's not necessarily a problem. Beyond the whole, why is he bothering so much with the camp and doing nothing about the X-Wing? That's a major problem. And he's just nothing. In fact, later, when talking with Yoda, he doesn't yet know it's Yoda, but still when talking with him, the point is even made about how, like Yoda asks him, have you done anything to keep this ship from sinking? Because, yeah, that's right. Luke has some comment about, like, I wouldn't even land it here. It was an accident. It's like, oh, have you done anything to if my ship were free, I'd get out of here. Oh, have you done anything about that? And it is just internally, well, no, I don't have the right tools. And it's like, dude, you've not even tried. You're an idiot. He is. He's absolutely an idiot. Yeah, so anyway, Yoda, and I may come back to that. I don't know, but that's definitely rant-worthy. But maybe I don't need more than that, beyond just, he's an idiot. Yoda's description is quite different from the movie. The height is the same, certain features are the same, but he has blue skin, not green, long white hair, as opposed to just the, like, scraggly, almost it's an accident that he has hair. I mean, seriously, the weight is so light on that puppet. I could almost believe it's like, yeah, it's more of a coincidence that that species has hair on their head versus they have it and he's just gone bald with age, which is another thing I will come back to in a moment. And elfin ears, which maybe I've just been spoiled by so many depictions of elves more recently, where they're not out like that, but, more the Vulcan type ears, which is also what you see in, like, the Lord of the Rings movies. It's not that the elf in the ears point out, but point up, like that, the point. So, I do then wonder just a little bit which is the intention. I could believe, though, that making them point out would be just the artistic choice for the movie, because it helps stand out more. And also that might give you some ability to emote with the character a little bit more. Like, if you twist even a little bit, they may flop more to give you some effect. So yeah, I mentioned his age. That there's a little bit here that I'm abstracting a little bit, but in the movie, and I gotta talk about this too. In the movie, Luke is just talking, R2's there, and Yoda answers. In the movie, he swings around almost as though I'm being watched, and he has the gun out and is pointing at Yoda, and Yoda's like, hurt me not. I mean you no harm. Whatever that line is. He does say that line, but he doesn't cower. Yoda, it literally says in there, stands his ground despite being half a meter tall versus Luke, who, I'm not sure how tall Mark Hamill is, but, it's reasonable that he'd be around 6 feet. So that's about 1 2/3, 1 3/4 meters? I don't quite remember. 6'6" is about 2 meters. As I recall, it's around there. So it's like, Yoda's definitely dwarfed by him, but it's like it describes him as standing his ground there. He also doesn't have a cane with him. So I do kind of wonder then if he is more physically competent is how the book is describing him than what we see in the movie. So even though we do get the whole, later on, been training Jedi 800 years, even though we do get that line, so he's clearly over 800 years old, is the book potentially setting up that that's, for his species, fine? Like, he can live longer than this even. Whereas in the movie, it does seem much more he is old, he is, well, potentially dying of old age already. Obviously, in Return of the Jedi, he does die, and we could attribute that to his old age. In this, though, it seems like, nah, he's still got plenty of life in him. Because, he is standing against Luke. True, Jedi Master versus Luke, but you don't necessarily know why. That wasn't the best way to start saying that, but he's not making himself evident that he is Jedi Master at this point, not yet. And there is also, it's reasonable to not be confrontational. It's like, even if you remember in the cantina scene in A New Hope, Ben at first doesn't try to confront the people that are harassing Luke. He's like, let me buy you a drink. They then decide, no, we're going to fight. And then Kenobi in the book kills two, and the third he removes an arm from. It's like that. It is reactive. It is defensive. Yoda, he was actually being kind of confrontational. But it does also say that Luke relaxes, though, when he sees the kindness in Yoda's eyes. That's when he relaxes. But it's only when Yoda then says, I mean you no harm. That's when he actually puts the blaster away. And then I've got the whole thing about it acknowledges that Luke hasn't tried to get the X-Wing out, because it is in the little bit of conversation there. But this really doesn't help the situation. I know that there is the concept of shining a light on something where it's like, yes, we have something that is dumb, that is stupid, but we're not going to make you think we didn't realize it. We're going to shine light on it. And in some cases, that does make sense. I don't think it works here because, this is too many times, in my opinion, that we've seen Luke making decisions contrary to his own survival and contrary to what training he should have received. I've made this point so many times, so many rants, that he should be more intelligent, should be more competent than this, but he's consistently not. The one thing, again, because it's like when Yoda starts walking away, and there's a little bit more to talk about before that, but when Yoda starts walking away, it's like, follow me, I'll give you good food, real food, because he doesn't like the food Luke brought. Luke does chase after him, and it even says that he's not even entirely sure why, but he does start following after. So we are kind of seeing that instant decision-making here, but again, wrong book that line was in. And it is also an argument could be made, this is inconsistent. The character of Luke in A New Hope is not an instant decision-maker, despite the line being there. In Empire Strikes Back, we are kind of seeing that he is like that. But now, why did the character change so much? If anything, you'd expect him to become even less like that, because the restlessness from being stuck on Tatooine should have died down by him now being part of the Rebel Alliance, and also his wanting to run away should also have died down and run away after seeing his family and home destroyed, and the family killed, the home destroyed. He definitely seemed to be running away. But it's like, after he found this new family with rebels and all that, and he was actually achieving some of the adventure he wanted, he should have calmed down some from that, or at least in those 3 years, it's reasonable he could have, while befriending Han and Leia, talked about this even, and just made peace with it. So it's, I don't like that he's becoming more reckless here than he was before, and just, at least in the recklessness that I did mention in the Death Star battle, at least it's possible, even though it does just drop it suddenly, and that was a criticism that I had. At least with that, it was, he may have had a death wish. Because he'd seen his family well, no, he didn't see his family killed. He saw his family dead, and then he saw Kenobi killed, who was his great and valued mentor of a whole, 5 days. So it's like, him having a death wish there is not unreasonable. But it's like, that it's not unreasonable here. It is it is not unreasonable there. It is unreasonable here, and that, yeah. Oh, yeah. So this other thing. So before they ran off, you've got the whole, Yoda going through this stuff. trying the food, not liking it, all that. And he does pull out that torch, just like what's in that little hand lamp, just like what's in the movie. And R2 does come up and try to grab it, and they fight over it. And in it, it describes that R2 grabs hold of it and is trying to pull it back, and Yoda pokes him with a finger, with a blue finger, because he's blue, not green. Not a cane. So there's no mention of him having a cane. Pokes him, and that gets R2 to stop. R2 actually loses the fight. In the movie, they're struggling back and forth, and Yoda's banging on him. And then Luke is like, let him have it, let him have it. The sequence is a little different in the book, where Yoda gets it away from R2. R2 stops, and then Luke tells him, stop, let him have it. And basically, don't fight him again. So again, we're seeing that Yoda is actually more physically competent than we see in the movie, because he was able to defeat R2 in this little fight here. So I find it interesting because, and there's other aspects of the character. He does seem a bit stronger. Just I'm trying to think of how to put it. Stronger in the less comical sense. In the movie, Yoda is kind of comical, especially at this point, before we know it is Yoda. In this, there's a little bit less of that. There is still some, because he is... I guess a way to put it is this. He's not a silly character. He's still kind of comical, but he's not silly. In the movie, he is a little bit more silly. So yeah, that's kind of that difference there. And there is, like, a greater physical strength, it seems. Yeah. Something else that seemed to be the case, but it's a little unclear. So, Luke comes back, follows Yoda to his home. And Yoda is, like, fixing food, and Luke is getting kind of frustrated because he doesn't really know why he bothered following him, things like that. And Yoda's even asking me, why do you want to become a Jedi? And it's like, well, it's important to me because my father was one. And it even comments that Luke is like, I don't even know why I'm saying that. I don't know my father. The close, all I really know about him is the lightsaber. Which it hasn't mentioned that he has on him, by the way. Just mentioning that. And Yoda's then commenting on the whole, yes, your father was a powerful Jedi. It's like, how would you know him? You don't even know who I am. And then Yoda's like off in the corner. And this is a little weird because it describes him being, and this is something I know I do. I will have this issue at times. Yoda being off at the corner, and then next we hear that he's at the table opposite Luke, and it's like, when did he move? I can also sometimes do that, or at least I'll have two people in a conversation and I don't talk about their emotions. But it might be that, yes, they were already walking, then there's someone else. So I get that, but this just seemed a little odd. Because they could have had some mention there of him moving back to the table, instead of he's just at it. Instead, not even like that he's sitting down. It's like, past tense, he's at the table now. So he moved in the past, and that just seemed a little odd. But that's minor writing style thing. I did notice it. But anyway, when he's off in the corner, Luke gets really frustrated because he can tell Yoda's talking to somebody. Like, Yoda's ignoring me. He'd rather talk to the corner of his home. He's talking to Kenobi. And I don't know. It's almost like I wish I could see writing notes on this. Because I feel like I keep motioning down a bit too much. Yeah, I almost wish I could see writing notes, because it almost seemed like Yoda's talking to Kenobi, like having a conversation with him that Luke can't hear until he actually, like, hey, let me check, because there was like a line where it seemed like, okay, at this point he is now more receptive to Kenobi being there. Yeah, yeah, this is really the final straw, Luke thought. Now there's impossible creatures talking to thin air. No good is this, the creature was saying irritably. This will not do. I cannot teach him. The boy has no patience. Cannot teach, no patience. Bewildered, he saw no one there. Then the truth of the situation gradually became as plain to him as the deep lines on the little creature's face. Already he was being tested, and by none other than Yoda himself. So it's basically after that, only after he's realizing, wait, this might be Yoda. Only at this point are we now hearing Kenobi talk? He will learn patience, Ben says. Much anger in him, like in his father, and yeah. Then some of that is very similar to the movie. I do think that's interesting because it might be like Kenobi was talking to Yoda for a while here, at least for the moment, and Luke just cannot hear him because he's not being receptive. That's fine. I'm happy with that kind of thing there, but I feel we could potentially describe that better if that's meant to be the case. We don't have Luke bumping his head to try to demonstrating in the movie that he is in fact being impatient. He is rushing around, and Yoda mocks him. It's like that's one of those things that's actually it works better in a movie because you get the thump and the reaction that you can do that in a book, but it doesn't necessarily carry as well. So, Kenobi stands up for Luke a lot more in the book. Like, because Yoda's very much like, no, he's too angry, too impatient, all that. Has the whole, all his life he has looked away to the horizon, to the sky, to the future, never his mind on where he was, on what he was doing, adventure, excitement. A Jedi craves not these things. So you have more of, Kenobi like trying to say, no, he's good. You need to give him a chance. And then, we get the whole, he's too old. But it does say that Luke is thinking like, well, okay, it actually sounds like now he's softening on me. And Kenobi does make the final point of he is our only hope. It is also interesting because it is more clear also that Kenobi had been Force Ghost talking with Yoda. So, like, this was kind of set up. But it's still, it's kind of too much of a coincidence, too much of a convenience that Luke just happened to land near where Yoda was. Although, I mean, it wouldn't necessarily be unreasonable that Yoda actually has a bunch of homes throughout, and he just was able to sense where Luke was going to land and just went to his nearest one. I mean, I don't know. It's just one of those things. I get it's storytelling, but you still could have done something a little different here, I feel. Like, even he doesn't sink the X-Wing and then flies around and is trying to pick stuff up and finds something. Or just something happen. I mean, there are ways to have an explanation there that they don't. Did I didn't mention it. Did I put it in here? Yes, it is in my notes at least. Okay. Let me go back. I gotta read this to you. It is so stupid. Okay, it's before that. Okay. From the sound of his beeps, it was clear R2 shared Luke's opinion of the swamp world. Although, Luke continued as he reluctantly tasted more of the food, there's something familiar about this place. I feel like... You feel like what? That wasn't R2's voice. Need to tell us? R2 has been described, I'm dead serious, he's been described at times as being a voiceless robot. That 3PO is his voice, essentially, right? He has the beeps. That's it. And you literally just had... He's making these beeps. It's like, that's not R2's voice when he hears somebody talking. It's like, yeah, he doesn't have a voice. You had to tell us? I kind of want to go on a rant. I think I can control myself there. It's just the whole, we don't need to make it seem like we think the reader is stupid. Okay? R2 doesn't have a voice. You don't need to say that it wasn't his voice. Because, I mean, it's like, how would Luke even know? No. Isn't it? Okay, yes. Okay, yeah. So if you deleted that, then that wasn't R2's voice. Luke leaped up, grabbed his pistol, then spun around, peering into the gloom to find the source of those words. You literally could have just gotten rid of that wasn't R2's voice, and just had Luke's reaction, because the fact that there's any voice there is enough to prompt such a reaction. And then as he turned, he saw a tiny creature standing directly in front of him. Step back in surprise. This little being seemed to have materialized out of nowhere. It stood no more than half a meter tall, fearlessly holding its ground in front of the towering youth who wielded an awesome laser pistol. Don't know why I need to say awesome laser pistol there, but still is fearlessly holding its ground. Not the, oh, do not hurt me. That's a change I don't know why you need to make it for the movie. Aside from making him more comical. I don't know. But, yeah, it is just... R2 doesn't have a voice. You don't need to tell us that. Yeah. So, for Chapter 9, we should get the first time we hear the Emperor speaking. Probably the start of the training with Luke. We'll see. I think most likely also the Falcon... the crew of the Falcon finding out that they are within the space worm thing, and they try to escape. So, yeah. We'll see how all that goes. But, yeah. It's not as bad a chapter as some, and I do like how they were handling the romance between Han and Leia, but it still is the whole... And it is funny how Yoda, in this, I'm kind of liking a little bit more. We'll see how this continues. It's kind of like how I like Kenobi in the book better than I like him in the movie. I wonder if that's also going to be how it works out with Yoda. But, yeah, it's just... Come on. Luke, you should have been trying to secure the X-Wing much earlier. I mean, I get you setting up its sinking and all that, but do something, all right? I mean, it's really nonsensical. But, well, one of those things, hey, criticism that hopefully I will remember to not repeat this, what I consider a mistake. All right, see you next time.